Okay, so first question. When did your musical journey begin?
Probably when I was about, I would say 5. I'm not really, I guess, trained when I was 5, but more like grew up in like musical kitchens and like parties, all of that, just a lot of family things. So not necessarily like, I guess, professional. I mean, just probably when I was in choir, so about high school.
Okay, yeah. So was your family musical then?
Yeah, so my mom actually sings. She doesn't sing classical music, but here and there she'll drop some type of pop song or Spanish song. Most of my family, they're mariachis. It's basically a band full of performers that perform at parties and stuff like that. So my family does more work outside of classical music. So yeah.
Okay.
And did you have a lot of inspiration to pursue music from your family?
Yes, especially like Spanish music. That was really what I was going towards until I had went to my first opera and I realized like, oh, never mind. Like this is exactly what I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So was that how you figured out that opera was the thing you wanted to do whenever you went to your first opera?
Yes, it was I want to say my sophomore year in high school. I had just started doing like all state during the time, solo and ensemble, stuff like that. And it wasn't until I went to my first opera, it was for a choir trip. So we went to go see Tosca at HGO.
Yes.
And I had heard about opera all the time. I knew that most of my directors were doing stuff like that outside of school. And when we went to go see it, I closed my eyes and I realized like, wow, like just hearing the orchestra, seeing the lights, I mean, just being in the theater was something that I'd never experienced before. And getting to do that and seeing people sing and act and do all these things all at once to me was like the whole package. So I was just like, this is what I want to do for sure.
So I'm wondering, how do you, or do you incorporate your ethnic background into your singing?
Mostly so it wasn't until this semester that I actually got Spanish repertoire, because before, of course, I was leaning more into like Italian and German. And so finally my teacher said, you know what, why don't we add Spanish to your package, since you already have a background in Spanish, why don't we just incorporate that? So it's really nice to kind of get that experience, and it also helped with the Italian itself because they're kind of sort of the same language. So, and oftentimes I get asked, do you speak Italian? Because my Spanish is so good that when I do Italian music, they're like, wow, like, I mean, not to sound cocky, but just like, wow, like, that's actually pretty, like, it sounds pretty decent. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a great influence, I guess, then.
Yeah.
So what pieces have you particularly enjoyed working on that come to mind, if any?
Probably, I would say the first Spanish pieces that I got, so like Al Amor from Fernando Obrador's, also his piece, man, there's so many, but mainly Al Amor because I'd never done a Spanish piece. Not, I guess, like, my favorite Spanish artist is Selena Quintanilla. I mean, she's somebody that I've looked up to my entire life. And so getting to do music that wasn't like her type of music and incorporating that to something that like classical music was really cool to do. And so getting to do songs like Fernando Obrador's, it was awesome to like finally get that salsa package. Like, yes, like I'm doing this. Like, I finally, it's kind of just working out. So it was an awesome experience. It really was.
Yeah.
And what have you learned from like Selena that has influenced the way that you perform?
Oh my gosh. There's so many things. Probably just her being so vulnerable to an audience. I mean, as musicians, we're always so scared they're not going to like it sometimes, or that I know for me at least, I'm always so afraid that I'm going to mess up, and I don't, because I'm like, man, like I want this to go so well. And just finally, just especially with her, just understanding that it's not always going to be perfect, and that's okay. And the audience isn't expecting it to be perfect. They just want to be entertained. They want to be moved by music, just like I'm moved by her music. All other artists around the world, how they're moved by other people's music. That to me is the most important thing that I learned from her, is her vulnerability and her honesty to her music. So
yeah. And so kind of along those lines, what do you think makes a good performance?
probably being as well, I don't want to say accurate, but just respecting the composer's kind of work, making sure that if you're going to do a piece, that you're doing it to the best of your ability, that you know that you put in the work, the time. I mean, even if you haven't, just really understand how important that is, why this composer wrote the music, why they even put words to it. I mean, it has to mean something. It just kind of depends on what it means to you as an artist.
Yeah.
And on the note of like performance, how do you handle mistakes during a performance?
I have a really, I think I've gotten over this over time, but just kind of whenever I do mess up, kind of not trying to make an expression that I just messed up. You saw that, you heard that, you know, but unless the audience like isn't really familiar with the piece, if I feel like, okay, this is the part that I'm not so comfortable doing, I feel like, okay, afterwards, if I know how to correct that for the next performance, that's what matters to me. As far as like in the moment, I mean, as long as you keep going, right? Just like for pianists, I mean, you don't stop. You just kind of, okay, let me just keep going. You just keep on playing. You keep singing. That's why we're doing it. We're not doing it to be these robots that know everything, when to do everything. Like, we're doing it because this is who we are. It's our identity. This is how you see me. This is how I see you.
Mm-hmm.
And did you ever have a problem dealing with performance anxiety?
Yes. Oh my goodness. It wasn't until I did like Allstate. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this process, but as far as for singing goes, there's a curtain behind every single audition that you go to. And so getting to do that experience was a little nerve-wracking because they don't know how I look like. And that's not really like something that is a factor, I guess. But the fact that you don't know like their expressions, how they're taking the music, was very intense. And especially when you'd have to wait outside of the door before someone else went, and you could hear how well or sometimes kind of a little shaky they were. And so depending on how you are, like for me at least, I was always so nervous, like, oh man, like I don't want to be the next person, like I want to go home, like I just want to just watch Netflix, do something else than what I'm doing right now. But just that experience, along with just in-person concerts and stuff, was getting over like whether they like it or not, I'm still gonna do it. I'm still alive. I'm still a living, breathing human. That it's okay. That, I mean, beforehand, if I'm really feeling like, man, this is exciting, or this is a big deal, I kind of have to step out and tell myself that there's a reason why I did this or why I applied for this, and whether or not it goes well, it only matters how I feel at the end of the day, and just to keep working harder.
Yeah. And so kind of along those lines as well, what advice would you give to like juniors and seniors in high school who are pursuing a path like you?
Probably get really involved in the music, because I know for some people, especially with classical music, the first thing they think is just boring, like wham, like church music, organs, all this. And some people enjoy that, but a lot of people that I went to high school with, though, especially, they were kind of like, that sounds boring. Like, who wants to just hear somebody singing gibberish because they don't know the language? So I would say just really familiarize yourself with the music or the repertoire you're singing. And just, if you really are passionate about doing classical music, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. If you feel this is the type of genre you want to enter, then do it. No questions asked.
Yeah.
And what's some of the best advice that you've ever received from, you know, a peer or an instructor?
Probably, I heard this from one of these adjunct instructors that I worked with over this summer at the Collaborative Pianist Institute at Louisiana State University. And she said to us, the only thing that matters is the work that we put into our artistry. And that means spending the time with your languages, spending the time learning how to act, how to just walk into a room. Just that's what matters. It doesn't matter if you can hit the highest C on the piano. It matters on what you're doing in that moment that really reflects you as an artist. So
yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that experience? Because I remember, I think, seeing that on Facebook or something.
Yeah, it was really interesting because it was supposed to be in person. We were supposed to be out there in Louisiana for about 3 weeks. And unfortunately, with the virus, it had to be canceled. But thankfully, the collaborators said, you know what, why don't we turn this into a virtual thing? And so that's what we did. We basically had meetings every single day from 10 in the morning to 7 p.m. at night with lessons involved as well at certain times, and like language classes, acting classes, anything that you can think of as for, it was more for collaborative pianists. So really working with collaborative pianists, I've never done that before. So it was really interesting to do that over like the internet. So getting to record separately, asking them what type of tempo they like, and not even getting to meet them was a little hard, but just the final product when we finally got to just put their videos with the video that you submit of you singing together, I mean, it really worked out really, really well. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah. So, so as you said that was really collaborative pianist focused. I know a lot of singers and instrumentalists struggle with how you talk to your pianist.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you learned with that.
For me, it was more like for auditions, like how you can, because there's some pianists who can play almost anything you give them. And then there's some who are very new and maybe are not so familiar with some of the rep that's mostly played all the time, which is kind of weird. But in a way, it's kind of like a good thing for both the pianist and the singer who's new to the audition. So I learned just how to respectfully ask, like, how you want things in an audition, and even if they don't go well, how you respond to that in the moment when you're in the audition room and you kind of just step back and say, can we try that again, or just go back, or even in rehearsal, just really getting to know one another, getting to know whether or not this is comfortable and how you can make it work at the end of the day. So that was really interesting to learn because I had felt like so-and-so that I'd never kind of collaborated like that before, other than when I've done recordings and just one day, hey, can you do a recording for me? Cool. Not really getting to, hey, well, what's your experience like? Like, tell me about yourself. Like, not really getting that time to get to know them, to really see what kind of tempo maybe they'd like to do, maybe their like interest on the song. Either way, it was really, really awesome to experience that.
And how has COVID-19 really affected your work or your processes or anything?
You know, I'm not sure if this is just me, but it's been really hard to be motivated sometimes to get up and want to practice, because you're so scared that maybe, especially for us young artists who are literally just starting out, maybe in your associate degree or your bachelor's degree, just stepping out into those doors of the music field, it's scary, especially right now because we're so uncertain with everything going on. But I feel like it's just getting up, first of all, and setting up the things that you need, your piano, your music, your metronome for some people. I mean, anything that you need to get the work done, just do it. Just just get through it. I mean, we're in this field because it's what we love to do. And if you really want to pursue this, then I don't think this virus or anything in the world you should be worried about, because it won't mean anything. It just means making music at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. So, like, what advice can you give to people who, like, really, really do struggle with motivation, even outside of the virus?
I would say really talk to yourself, probably even some peers. Like for me, what's been helpful was talking to some students at Lone Star, just kind of seeing what they're doing to kind of get over everything that's going on. Because there's so much information being tossed around everywhere, even with school.
Yeah.
And really just finding the people that you care about and just talk to them, really get in their minds. Don't feel like, you know, you have to put on this persona that you got it all together, because none of us do right now, especially for us musicians. We're all scrambling for work, even for online opportunities. Like there's so many virtual programs going on now that even we're all having to do recordings, we're all having to do interviews on Zoom, and just really talking to your friends, the people that you care about, that I hope care about you. They will be there for you to help you through this time, just like we're all trying to get through. So
yeah, and so kind of more on that topic, how have you found online opportunities during the virus?
very beneficial. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have had the opportunities to work with some of the greatest singers that I didn't even imagine in a million years I would be able to work with, had it not been for an online event. And so getting those opportunities, for one, is just extremely feeling grateful, feeling like, wow, like even though this virus kind of made things shut down, events, everything, I still had an opportunity to make music with people. Even though it wasn't in person, I still got to meet them, still got to talk to them. I still had time to just do something different than usually that's done in person. So getting to do that was just a dream, really a dream come true.
And how would you suggest that people go about obtaining those opportunities?
I would say for students, really ask your teachers whether there are any, because there are some forums like on Facebook and I mean online and stuff that you can actually find. And I know HGO is also doing a lot of virtual events. There's like Rice is also offering free online classes, some even for music theory for students like me who need that. I mean, it's, I would say really take advantage of that, because who knows, like in the future when all this is hopefully gone, you may not have that opportunity, and really consider doing it, even though it might take some time. It might take some time to adjust, especially for looking at a screen for more than like 7 hours. It was a little draining, but just knowing the end product, I say go for it. Really take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. So, how have you been able to balance, you know, university life and your practicing?
For me, because now I worked out, also I work at academy, so having a job, practicing, and going to school full time can seem very overwhelming for a lot of people. And actually, my first year of college, I was at a university, and it wasn't until I came to a community college where I realized how many people were working really, really harder than any people I'd met before, working full-time jobs, practicing till 10 o'clock at night, getting to class on time. Like how can you do that? I mean, it's really, really tough. And I'd say like, oh man, it's not easy. It really isn't. But I mean, nothing in life is easy unless, you know, you're I guess, an animal or something, and you don't have to worry about anything. But
Yeah.
it's, we just have so much to live for. Like, this virus, it's not going to be here forever. It'll go away. And just, even though we're indoors now and we don't have a lot of people to talk to other than your family, who I don't know about you guys, but gotten just a little bit tired of, but just just really taking care of yourself. And even with practicing, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to put 30 minutes, just you, not even looking at the music, just kind of you meditating, or for me, just listening to Selena, of course, just doing something else rather than working on what you're supposed to be working on. Just understanding it's okay. It is totally okay to take a break right now. And don't feel like, oh, someone else is working harder than me, so I should be practicing right now. Because yeah, that is true. But it's also important that you take care of yourself before you literally lose your mind and end up not loving music as much as you did before. And that's, to me, the most scariest thing is I don't want to practice so much where I get literally tired of looking at it and just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Because I don't know why I got into music if I'm going to get tired of it that easily. Like, no, I want to enjoy it. Everybody wants to enjoy it. So just really taking that time to have a break.
Yeah, and you mentioned taking care of yourself. Your instrument is your voice, and so how do you take care of your instrument? How do you take care of yourself to make your voice, in good shape?
I am probably the worst person to answer this because I am just a spicy food eater. I mean, it is totally unhealthy. It is so bad, but it's the honest truth. But besides that, I would say hydrating a lot. Just, I know going to the restroom every 30 minutes is a hassle, but it really is important, just especially when you have a performance probably in a week. I mean, just hydrate. I don't care if you drink a gallon of like water by your bed every time. Like, just really hydrating, taking your tea when you need. I have some throat coat tea that sometimes when I get up in the morning and I feel like, ugh, like there's something wrong today, I'll just open up my throat coat, put it in the cup, and there we go. It's ready to go. So just eating right, especially for me, especially right now, it's a little tough, but if you can manage to eat more healthier, and I'm not saying eating a salad every single day because I can't do that, but just taking care of yourself, taking care of like you mentally, because a lot of the time, if you're not feeling so well in your voice, it's because of how you're feeling inside. And if that's negative and that's just, you're feeling like depressed or sad, it's going to affect your voice. And for me, to ways I've gotten over that is just listening to music that I love. It can even be classical music or outside of classical music. Doing other things like practicing the piano. Like, I'm not as good as you guys or anybody else on this planet, but I do sometimes just get on the piano and play basic chords just so I can hear something else than myself sometimes, because I'm like, I'm so sick of me. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. But doing other things and going outside for air, like just little basic stuff, like normal day stuff. You don't have to do like drink apple cider. I know some people do that and it's crazy, or just drink random stuff or put this in their food and their drinks. And it's like, no, I would say just basic water. Doesn't need to be a type of water, whatever you prefer, and just taking care of yourself mentally.
Well, I'm definitely sure you're better at piano than I am.
Yeah, so kind of along some other lines, what has been either a conference or a masterclass or even a studio class that has been particularly influential for you? And I'm going to excuse myself for just a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm having to go to the restroom every half hour.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite opera singers, actually. Her name is Lise Oretesa. She's actually started a like free masterclass sessions of her speaking about the voice. I mean, she's had a bunch of guests, like students, teachers, anybody you name it, come in and talk to us for free, completely free. Unless you want to sing, you could donate, of course, to sing for the class. But that experience itself has been extremely beneficial. I mean, just getting to have that, I mean, I don't get to talk to her face to face actually, but just seeing her just bring her insight on things, and even things that don't even have to deal with the voice, like just in the industry itself, like how to get an agent, how to do other things outside of music. That has been extremely beneficial, especially right now.
Yeah, and how would you suggest that other singers prepare for being in the real world?
I would say to be as authentic as you can be. Don't ever, and not even just for singers, just for any musician, don't ever feel like you have to compare yourself, because we all have something different to offer. I mean, if you're called back, great. If you're not, okay, that's great too. There's other opportunities out there, and never feel like if you don't get something, that means you're not good enough, because that's just not true. I mean, the most accomplished thing in my life was being during this all-state process. For example, in high school, I had advanced through all the rounds each year. Starting from my sophomore year, I had advanced to the last round. My junior year, same thing. My senior year, the exact same thing. Each year I got closer and closer to making the choir, and ultimately in my senior year I was an alternate, and it was the hardest thing to accept, even now sometimes, because it's such a big thing in Texas that, I mean, if you have that notch on your belt, it's like, oh, you are the best, like you're the greatest. And unfortunately for me, it didn't work out that way. But then the next day, I had went to a competition, another competition for Greater Houston Nats, and I remember the whole day, even before I went for my audition, I was feeling very down and feeling like I don't even want to be here. I mean, if I can't even make the all-state process, I can't do this. Like, there's no way. And I had made it to the final round, and I ended up winning. And I was very like, wow, like things really do happen for a reason. Because even though I didn't make that, I got this out of it. And then the next day, I got an audition for a university, and I ended up getting a scholarship. I mean, things started really rolling after something that I felt really defeated me and really took my love for music away, because that's what I'd been working on for so long. And getting over that was hard. And just the opportunities that were given to me afterwards really showed me that as an artist, that, I mean, you can truly do anything that you set your mind to. No matter how many times you're told no, no matter how many times you tell yourself that you can't do it, you can. It's all up to you at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so how do you as a musician, and especially as an actor too, with voice and everything, how do you deal with rejection? Because I know it happens all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I can't say that, oh, it doesn't, no, it's hard. And I know, just not just for me, like so many people that I talk to, it can have a really like impact on who you are as a person. And I would say just, it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you know that you tried your best, your full best, not okay, I went, that's good enough. No, like you really put in the work to do this. If you're really looking forward to doing whatever project that may be, the rejection things, you're always going to get rejected in some things. You're never going to win everything. And I mean, Olympians never win every gold medal. They just don't. Nobody that, at least any of my artists that I listen to, has never won a Grammy every single year. It just doesn't happen. It really doesn't. And you have to understand that we're normal people, just like the people that are behind the judge panel. They're also normal, just a human as me, as you, anybody. And their opinion, at the end of the day, you can either throw it away or you can keep it to yourself and just keep letting yourself down. But there's other opportunities out there that you could be chasing towards than just sitting in your room feeling like you're not good enough, because it's just not true. It really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say is something that sets your performance apart from others?
Probably that I'm not afraid sometimes. I'm not really the type to be so confident, especially when it's a competition or something, because I am the worst. Like, before auditions, I'm going behind, walking around, pacing, telling myself, do I really want to do this? Is this really what I want to do? Just, I think what for me kind of sets me apart is whenever I do feel like I'm strong and confident, you could see that. You could really see that. You couldn't even see behind all the tears and the rejection and all the obstacles that I've had to face just as a human being, as an artist. I mean, that's the most special thing about getting to be a performer itself.
That's awesome. That's really great advice, and really inspiring, your humility.
Yeah, so kind of related. What are some of your favorite things about the music world and industry, and also some of your least favorite things that you'd like to change?
My favorite thing is probably the new type of like music that is brought to the table every single year. It's not the same. And especially I know for me, when I'm in music theory and I'm hearing the same names like Mozart and Beethoven and just the same people, I'm kind of like, man, like, is there anyone else that I could like listen to? And when I get that opportunity to see other artists doing different things with their pianos or their trumpets, I mean, to me, it's like, wow, like that to me should be put into like textbooks. Like, you can't ignore that. Like, what? So that to me is my most favorite thing, is that there's always something new being brought to the table. My least favorite thing that I wish I could change was just adding more diversity. I mean, and not just diversity, but inclusion. I mean, all sizes, all shapes and colors, everything. And no matter where you come from, no matter if you speak a different language, you believe in something else, I think it's been really hard, especially for some companies, to incorporate that, because they're afraid of the type of, I guess, audiences that are being brought to those companies, that they're afraid that it'll kind of negatively affect their performances, whatever you want to call it. It's an excuse for me, but to me, if you want more artists to come to the table, we have to be allowed in. I mean, I'm not gonna, or anybody I know will put myself into a situation where I know I'm not wanted. Why even waste my time? Why are they wasting their times? So just, I really want more inclusion into the music industry, for sure.
Yeah. And so how can we, as like moderately normal people with no really position of power, like we're not billionaires, like how can we do our part to be a part of that change?
Speak out. Like, speak out. Sign the petitions that are going on, and email these people that are involved in these companies, because especially right now, they're not doing much. You know, they're scrambling to find ways to continue their companies to keep running. But it's up to the people, the audiences who want to keep enjoying these shows, these performances, seeing these artists every single time. it's really up to us whether how much we care about, you know, the things that we want to change, and whether we get it or not in 5 years, 20 years, at least you're doing your part to do that, which is just speaking out, telling other people how you feel, how you think something else should be done, like anything that you feel is validated. I mean, especially as an artist, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And is there, at any point in your life, have you ever been, you know, inspired by the visual arts?
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's before I actually did the Spanish pieces. I got to look at some paintings beforehand just to see, because I know like expressionism, you could see that in paintings where it's not really there, but especially as a viewer, it really depends on what you see. So getting to do that and just incorporate that, it's really beautiful, and it's something that I'd never done before. And I just kind of was like, you know what, let me see about where the Spanish artists were doing at this time, and seeing the different types of colors, the different type of things that might not look so, like, I guess, pretty to the eye. Something is a meaning behind it, and that was really special.
And in what way did you incorporate that into your work?
Probably, especially like with acting, like not making it seem like so obvious that I'm really happy right now and you're gonna, you know, kiss me right now. Like, no, just feeling like it's very individual. Because I mean, I might see a painting and think, oh, this person's getting an apple from a tree, and someone else might be thinking, oh, well, the tree is talking to the person, so that whatever it might be, it's just individually. Like for me, it's more like not making it seem so obvious, kind of putting it up to the viewer or the audience to see what they think the song's about. That's why it's so cool to be an artist sometimes, because they have no idea what we're going to put onto our programs. And so when they get new repertoire that they maybe haven't heard, it's so nice to like hear their expressions and their thoughts afterwards, like, oh, I thought this is what it was about. And it's really cool. Yeah.
That's great. And, you know, do you ever really get to hear that feedback from your audience?
Yeah, most of, for I guess like for studio classes at Lone Star, I got, you know, some of my classmates got to see different sides of, I mean, all of us got to see different types of styles of music that all of us were performing, and then afterwards got to kind of give them feedback and say like, oh, like what actually was this about, or just really, really funny stories sometimes, because you have like some songs that are sung over and over and people think like, oh mio bambino caro. I don't know if you guys ever heard that, but for the longest I thought it was this sentimental song, and like she's just like singing to her lover and she's just letting him know how much she loves him. And in reality, it was about her begging her dad to help her lover, because it was a long story, but I was really shocked, like, wow, like this whole time, like I was singing it the wrong way in some way, shape, or form. So it's really like interesting to kind of finally know the real meaning behind it. And yeah, sometimes it's kind of like shocking sometimes, because you're like, whoa, like that's what it was about. Like, okay, like.
And was there ever a point in time where you had to really learn how to take criticism?
Oh yes. So, because even for like solo and ensemble, for example, they have like little comment sheets, and you get them afterwards. And sometimes they're, well, at least for me, they're not always so pretty. They're not always so like you know, what you want to hear. Or even sometimes from your mentors, your teachers, sometimes they can say stuff that you're kind of like, oh, like why haven't you said this beforehand? Like, and kind of knowing how to take criticism is, it really depends on you. I know for me, I'm very sensitive sometimes, so I'm like, ugh, like please don't say anything that will really like tear me down. But somebody, especially in the music business, I mean, you're gonna have to know how people think of you, because it's your brand, you know. And you know, receiving criticism for me was hard at first, because my whole life I've always told anyone I've worked with, like, please, if it sounds bad, tell me. Don't lie to me and say, oh, that was great, let's move on. Like, no, please, even if I crack and you think that was amazing, let me know how to fix that. And especially for other musicians, like, some of us get intimidated working with our instructors every single day, hoping that the work you put in before your lesson is being shown, and sometimes it's not. And just really accepting that, you know, you can't please everyone, and if you can make it better the next time, then do that for sure.
Mm-hmm. And so, just kind of wrapping up, what has music meant to you?
Oh, music is everything. Just, it really, I don't know anyone who doesn't know me and say like, oh yeah, you sing. Like, it's really who I am. Singing is my identity. I mean, people like, I'm just gonna say Selena, like, she's been the reason why I wanted to sing in the first place. And I mean, especially as a minority, it's really hard to find people like that now, where they're being showcased and they're being, you know, represented in this beautiful way, because you have to find that now. It's really hard to find that. And so with music, it's not characterized in any way. It's for everyone, whether you love metal music or you love 80s or country music. I mean, music is universal, and for me, that's what makes me get up every morning, is that there's music being made every single day that I haven't even gotten the chance to listen to yet, but when I do, it's a blast. It's a ride. So
yeah, and kind of lastly, is there anything else you want to share with our audience?
just don't give up. Nothing in this life is ever going to be easy, because if it was easy, everyone would do it. Mm-hmm. And never compare yourself to anyone. It's inevitable. Everybody feels like they're not good enough. And just because that person might have got something and you didn't, doesn't mean that you're not anywhere as near as them, because it might not have anything to do with you, literally you, like your art, anything. And just to keep going no matter what, like, especially right now, just continue practicing, continue listening to your favorite songs and your favorite artists, because that's what life is. Just enjoying it, just enjoying making people leave audience, like theaters or whatever you're performing in, leaving with a new attitude, leaving inspired, encouraged. And us as artists, that's what we're here to do. Just stick with it, really stick with it.
Well, thank you so much for, doing this interview with us. It's been so great and uplifting.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. Thank you guys. Like, really, this is Victoria. Like, I went to go to school with Victoria, so I just want to commend you guys. Like, this is an awesome initiative as a student, for sure, like, to have an organization like this. So I'm really, really glad that you reached out to me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for responding too, and for being excited about it and joining. It's great to see students who are excited about pursuing opportunities, and definitely. Well, thank you.